last hours, we learn the contents of a second independent autopsy on Nolan's body. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. Nolan was not.
In the last hours, we learned the contents of a second independent autopsy on Nolan's body. The official record states the cause of death is undetermined pending investigation. That is the government's final word, for now, but undetermined is not the same as nothing happened. It simply means the official machinery of the state has not yet produced an answer. In the gap between those words and the physical reality of a dead body on a beach, there is a space where evidence lives. And it is in that space that we must begin
He's the esteemed lecturer at the Burnett School of Medicine at TCU. I don't have to explain to you what it takes to become not just a medical examiner, but the chief medical examiner in a metropolitan area like Fort Worth. All that aside, COD, MOD, undetermined. But what jumped out at me, among so many things, Dr. Kendall Crowns, what does he...
Preliminary report, second autopsy, death of Nolan Xavier Wales. Cause of death undetermined pending investigation. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Project Cold Case. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Imagine a photograph. A young man, a star athlete, face down in the sand. His body is not floating. It is not drifting. It is resting at the waterline, left leg bent, right leg bent, arms out, head turned into the earth. It is the posture of a man who has been placed, not washed. That is the visual anchor a body that looks like it is sleeping on a beach, not a victim of a desperate drowning. But that is where the questions begin, not where they end.
Overlaying the occipital bones. What is that? Translate.
So what if that is the occipital bone is the bone in this is your skull. It's the bone in the back of your head, the directly back side of your head.
The occipital bone is the bone in this is your skull. It's the bone in the back of your head, the directly back side of your head. The second autopsy, paid for by the family, found something. A focal area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissue of the back of the head, not on the skin, deep, beneath the muscle. This is not a scratch. It is not a sunburn. This is a hemorrhagic event. The official report calls it deep subcutaneous, which is a clinical way of saying that something happened to the back of this young man's head, something that left a mark that did not fade even as
Washington,
the body...
D.C. So that could be that. It could also be
Trust
blunt
me,
force injuries.
I don't think I know more than you on this, Dr. Kendall Crowns, but you got me drinking out of the fire hydrant. You're giving me so much information. I had to break in right there. Because you said
Well, these have to be considered when you're saying a reddened area because the doctor didn't call it hemorrhage, which is interesting to me. He called it a reddened area. The language is important. The examining doctor did not call it a bruise. He did not call it a contusion. He called it a reddened area. That is a choice. It is a clinical hedge. It leaves the door open for a decompositional artifact, a transport artifact, or a blunt force injury. The official line is that they cannot determine which one it is. But the absence of a determination is not the absence of evidence. It is a failure to explain, not a clean bill of health. The question hangs in the air if it was a blow. What caused it?
Now, they're not describing any injuries to the skin surface, which would still be there if he was, even if he's decomposed, you would still see injuries, abrasions, bruises, lacerations, things of that nature, even with decomposition. So it's difficult to give significance to this deep red area in the musculature of the deep soft.
The body has been kind of put on its back and transported to Washington, D.C. Now, the experts will tell you that blood settles. It's called lividity. When the heart stops, the blood pools in the lowest part of the body. It is a law of physics, not a mystery. So here is the question: if the body was found face down, as the aerial footage confirms, then the blood should have pooled in the chest, the face, the front of the body. It should not have pooled in the back of the head. The state's answer to this is that the body was transported on its back and that the pooling could have occurred during that journey. That is the official explanation.
Including musculature, which can give a reddish decoloration from the actual decomposition process of the muscle. So all these have to be considered when you're saying a reddened area, because the doctor didn't call it
Go back to
hemorrhage.
Kendall Crow. Kendall? Kendall. Where's Kendall? Why am I not seeing Kendall? Kendall, please turn around. Show everybody what we're talking about because I'm doing this. Show me occipital. Occipital is right here. Back head. Now we arrive at the second critical finding. The anterior neck structures were absent, not damaged, not fractured, absent. The hyoid bone, the thyroid cartilage, the laryngeal structures. These are the fragile pieces of anatomy that are often broken in strangulation. They were not received with the body for the second autopsy. The state says they are being held for further testing for forensic anthropologists to examine for microfractures. That is the official story, but the absence creates a void.
Wait,
Here's a
go
problem
back to
with
Kendall
that.
Krause
And
real quick.
I want to address that.
Wait. Kendall. Where's Kendall? Why am I not seeing Kendall? Kendall, please turn around and show everybody what we're talking about because I'm doing this. Show me occipital.
Occipital's right here. Back ahead.
How
Right where your neck
in the
contact-
world, out of his whole body,
I want to know was the hyoid bone, which is very fragile. It's not attached to anything. It's kind of floating there. Who leaves their phone behind on a desert island? Who lets a boat leave without it? The family retrieved the phone, but they had to wait 15 minutes. The friends were sitting in the dark, watching TV. The phone had been cleaned. The Snapchat and Instagram data from that day were missing. The digital footprint, the one thing that could tell us exactly where Nolan was and when, is a void. This is not the behavior of a group of friends who just survived a boating accident. This is the behavior of people who are managing a narrative.
But right now, those structures are being evaluated by someone else and not available for the second autopsy.
I want to talk to you about what you just said. If I see deep reddening of the tissue,
They put this autopsy out and they kind of gave you a lot of sizzle. They gave a big dog and pony show, but they didn't really make it clear on the findings and conclusions and how they could be interpreted. The ticking clock in this case is not just about Nolan. It is about the truth. Every day that passes, evidence degrades. Phones are cleaned, memories fade, boats are repaired. The physical reality of that day is slipping away. The state has the power to conduct a thorough investigation, but it has not released the first autopsy. It has not explained the missing neck structures. It has not clarified whether the red mark was a blow or an artifact. The longer this remains undetermined, the more the truth erodes. And that is the question we must ask ourselves.
I want to know what happened up here. I want to know, was the hyoid bone, which is very fragile, it's not attached to anything, it's kind of floating there. And often in ligature manual,
If you delete a picture, Nancy, it sits in a recycle bin on your iPhone, and you can recover that for about 30 to 40 days as a normal user. If you empty that trash, it's not recoverable, but we doing forensics can still find it. If you are a parent listening to this, and you are thinking about your own child, ask yourself, what would you do? Would you accept undetermined as an answer? Would you let the phone be cleaned? Would you allow the neck structures to remain absent? The answer is no. You would demand answers. You would demand the first autopsy. You would demand the full forensic examination of that phone. You would demand to know exactly when Nolan entered the water and whether he was conscious or unconscious when he did.
Information
Dr.
is
Kendall
needed.
Crowns, again,
Both of them
you're
are
the
saying
expert,
that.
not me, but let me just cut you off right there because the answer to that was yes, you do consider extrinsic evidence. That said, listen to this.
I don't think that Nolan would say, hey, bro, I'm staying with this girl on the island. Y'all go ahead and go back. Like, not even asking to get his phone back. You know what I mean? I've never known Nolan to stay back while his friends leave. He's always been a guy where if he rode with you, he's going to come back with you. That's always how he's been.
I want to talk about the phone issue. And again, I don't want Nolan to be dead at all. I want this to be an accidental death, but I am not turning a blind eye to concerning aspects of this investigation. The official narrative is that he drowned. That is the simplest explanation. A young man, a star athlete, went into the water and did not come out. It is tragic, but it is an accident. That is the story the state is offering. But the evidence does not fit. The red mark on the back of the head does not fit. The missing neck structures do not fit. The phone left behind does not fit. The friend's lawyering up does not fit. This is not a simple drowning. This is a puzzle with too many missing pieces to call it an accident.
Right. Okay, I want to talk about the phone issue. And again, I don't want Nolan to be dead at all. I want this to be an accidental death. But I am not turning a blind eye to...
If you know or think you know anything regarding the death of this young star athlete Nolan Wells, dial 28769363. We are not resting until it makes sense, and that is a promise we make to the family, to the viewers, and to the memory of Nolan Wells. The evidence is there. The questions are there. The only thing missing is the answers, and those answers will not come from an official press release. They will come from forensic examinations, from digital forensics, from the hard work of investigators who refuse to accept undetermined. As a conclusion,
cell service and Wi-Fi do not matter. He could even post them to Instagram or to Snapchat, and they'll sit in a temporary directory until he has service. Sometimes that fails, but we still see that activity when we do forensics.
He had a deep love for the Lord and an unwavering faith that was evident in the way he lived his life. And that is what this case comes down to. A life, a death, a cover-up, and a family that is still waiting for answers. The evidence is there. The truth is waiting. The question is whether we are brave enough to find it.
From the second and independent autopsy is, we know nothing. But Crump did hit the nail on the head as it relates to this. The critical moment is when and how Nolan Wells entered the water.
At the time of this report, this forensic pathologist...
How did Nolan Wells end up in the water? Now, we must direct you to the public record. The Mississippi Medical Examiner's Office has not released the first autopsy. That document is public record. You can request it. You can review it. You can ask the questions that the state is not asking. The question we leave you with is this. If the state had nothing to hide, why is the first autopsy still secret? Review the public filings. Look at the timeline. And then ask yourself, is this the standard of justice you accept? The evidence is in the record. The question is whether we are willing to read it. Before we close, subscribe to Project Cold Case. Like this video, share it, and turn on notifications. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence.
228-769-3063. We remember American hero Officer Adam Ashworth, St. George PD, Utah. How did Nolan Wells end up in the water? How is there so much confusion about who was with him last? Listen.
He had a deep love for the Lord and an unwavering faith that was evident in the way he lived his life.